we forget that we can build life according to our rules. No matter how successful we get, no matter how educated we are, we can forget that we can actually build a life that looks exactly how we want it to look like. Why do we forget that? Because from a very young age, we're being taught, programmed, or conditioned everywhere, absolutely everywhere, that you have to do things this way, and that's the only way it's going to work. And we see different scenarios. So, depending on who you are, we see different scenarios. Most of the people see, depending on where they grew up in, they see a certain scenario either on a TV, around in their family, someone in their town who was very famous, or a celebrity, or whoever. And now, obviously, a lot there's influencers, the content creators. People see those and they believe that's the version of reality that is possible. And therefore, we follow and we follow that reality, we follow those steps, we follow that path that we believe is possible because that's what we're shown is possible. But for some people, the visionaries, the leaders are here to lead a path that has not been walked. This is the difficult thing. You have to walk a path that has not been shown to you, that has not been walked. But you keep trying to walk a path, you keep trying to walk a road that has been walked by others, that has nothing to do with your energy, with who you are and what you're here to create. Because most likely you're not like everyone else. You're not like all these people. We're all different, but there are some of us who are more different than others. We're just really wired differently. Our brain is wired differently. The creativity, the vision that we have, doesn't match with anyone else's vision. It doesn't match with what most people see or what most people have seen possible for them. It's not necessarily that it's bigger. It could be. It's most likely bigger than most people's. But it could be very different to what you have seen around you. Imagine you keep trying to walk a path that has nothing to do with you. Of course, you're going to keep turning into challenges. Of course, you're going to keep trying to walk into doors, or you will keep walking into walls and doors because you're trying to walk a path that is not yours. So you'll get so many challenges, and it will seem so much more difficult to you to walk a path that is not really yours, that is not really for you. Because you're trying to mold yourself. Someone like me, right? I was taught and I was programmed that you have to be very successful. You have to be very acknowledged. You have to look a certain way. You have to dress a certain way, right? I was brought up to be perfect in every way possible. And then to follow that standard route, right? I thought I need to prove myself and I need to choose and get into the best possible companies, positions, the highest paid, and the most accomplished, or whatever it was at that point, the most difficult to get into, like to prove myself, right? Of course, at that time, I didn't realize that that's what I was doing. At that time, I thought that I'm just doing the best. I'm one of the best, so I'm just doing the best things that are available for people who are the best, most powerful, most educated, and all kinds of things. And I'll prove I'm getting into those positions. And I remember during the financial crisis of 2008, I was working and living in London at the time. And I was working an office job, and I realized it was way too easy. Within a couple of months, I've created new projects, I worked everything out. I was like, I need something a lot more challenging than this because this became too boring and it's too easy, and I could not do this for a long time. I was like, what is the most challenging position that I could be in? And I've decided to go for an investment bank. And then I did my research and I researched what are the top or the top investment banks in the world. And I found two at the time that were top two investment banks. I was like, those are going to be considered the best. And then I did more research. I found people, I contacted people. We're talking 2008 who worked for those banks for each one of them. And I got a feedback from one of the banks that people did really not like working there. And then I got a feedback from another one that they were much more positive with their experience. I decided to go with the other bank, and the selection process was very long. And everyone was telling me I should not be doing this, I should not be going for it. But that was the only thing that I wanted. And my all my energy was really focused into that because that's the only thing that I wanted. It was like, I need to get this. This is what I want, and there's nothing else. I got it. I got it. It was a very long process, very long selection process. I think it was like 400 people to one place. That's what we were told from the applications I received and who were selected. And obviously, they were firing so many people. They were not hiring as many people back then due to what was going on. And I got in. And I was so ecstatic at first because I finally got what I thought was a dream, like a wish come true, right? I was ecstatic. I was so excited. And in the beginning, because it took me 6 months to even start working there. And in the beginning, I was so ecstatic because it was like, I was just flying high just because I got the thing that I believed that I needed to get or I wanted at the time. And I made it to come true against everyone's recommendations, against what everyone was telling me. They were telling me that I was crazy to only apply for one place and no one's hiring. And the friends who were applying everywhere for spending hours and hours and hours a day. Just so you know the backstory, I was going against everyone, what everyone was telling me every single day, what everyone was doing, and I did it my way. It seemed almost impossible that I'm going to get it, but I was one of the top 2% out of my university who actually got a position and signed a contract before everyone else, all these other people who were doing things the traditional way. But when I started working in that bank, at first I was super excited. I was excited because it was the beginning, it was fresh, it was new, I was excited on that dream vision energy that I was riding on. Because it was just like, it seemed like the success, the version of the story, like the best thing that it could happen. And a few months set in and the reality set in, I actually realized like I was I was dreading waking up in the morning and going to work. It was like the life seemed not worth living if it meant living this way. And it got darker and darker, not only outside, but inside of me. It got so dark. And I've realized this is the loop that I've ran in my life many times, that I would do the things that would seem successful or the things to do, things to get, the things to achieve. And I would have the things, but it would just be because it's not my thing, not my way. It would get so heavy, it would get so dark, I would get burnt out. Life would seem not worth living, or I would constantly feel on the edge, snapping at everyone at every corner, even though that's not my normal self. Because I was trying to fit myself into the roles that were not mine. But every time I did things my own way, like my own projects or my own business or my own brand, even though I worked long hours, probably even longer than doing all these other things, that excitement, that energy, the inspiration, just doing it was scary because obviously I had no support at all because no one can support a vision that they don't see results for or they haven't seen it happen, right? The visionaries and leaders have to walk the path and show everyone the way. And that's why not everyone can be a leader and not everyone is a visionary because not everyone can walk that path. And even the visionaries and leaders, not everyone walks the path because it's difficult. It's difficult to walk a path without any support. It's difficult to walk a path that has never been walked before. You may have seen a version of it, you know, like parts of it, but completely doing things your own way when most people are going to be pushing you against it. Most people are going to be telling you you're crazy. Same with my personal brand. When I started creating and doing things in 2018, there were some people like excited because it's kind of new, but no one was supporting me. No one was telling me this is the right thing to do. All of my family members, and most of them at least, tried to talk me out of it. To tell me like, what are you doing? What is this? Or try like talking behind my back. And they only started kind of supporting me either when they saw financial results or the fact that I had people lining up just to be in my events, like consultations, journalists coming to talk to interview me, or podcasters coming to interview me. When they saw actual substantial real results. Up until then, until people see the physical results, like something that they can take, they're not going to be able to support you because they're not going to be able to believe in it because that is your vision. That is your path to walk. But why you get burnt out, why you get so frustrated, why you get so exhausted or you get sick or things are not going your way, because You keep trying to walk a path that is not yours. You keep trying to fit yourself, as they say, into a box that is not yours to fit in. They keep trying to do this over and over and over and over and over and over and over again in different scenarios. And you may have succeeded in a lot of them, but most likely, if that was not your path and not scenario, not your vision exactly, then you may have succeeded on the outside, but inside things were bad. There were many successful women that would have come to my programs or my consultations and or my events, and they were really unhappy. They were very stuck. They were exhausted. They were anxious. They could not fall asleep, and so on and so forth. Just what we see on the outside does not mean that that's the reality they live in, because that's exactly where I was. From the outside, everything looked perfect in the past, but I could not fall asleep. Or every time I was falling asleep, I would get anxiety and I would wake up from fear. Just that's how that's how much in like constant stress I was. I had a chronic insomnia, and for me that was just a norm. I was constantly sick. I would faint, or I would get sick and I could not get out of bed. I would get all kinds of these random illnesses just to for my body to make me stop and just sit down and really reassess and see where I'm going. What I'm doing now and what is very important for me, and it is for you if you're watching this, if you're connecting to anything that I'm saying, do things very intentionally, short term and long term. What is that vision? And every time question your like ask yourself this question and just question about everything that you're doing, not to overthink, but to be more intentional. Is this what I truly want? Is this what feels good in my body? Always check with your body. Obviously, the things that are going to be bigger than you are not going to feel super relaxing. They could feel exciting, but sometimes excitement could come across as anxiety. But there's a difference with how your body feels. Although, when you're growing and you're doing things, even you're doing things your own way, but you're growing, you're doing more, or you're trying to do more, or you're trying to be more than you've ever been or done or had, then there will be some growing pains just because there's going to be challenges because you'll have to keep getting to a new level of who you are, what you can hold, what your body can hold, what your energy can hold, what your capacity can hold. That doesn't mean that is not what you want, as long as the big vision aligns with you and overall aligns with you. But there's still going to be challenges because you'll still have to learn. You'll have to sharpen your skills. You'll have to keep realigning your energy, especially because we're so heavily programmed to be a specific way. Each one of us differently, but there's certain outlaying programs that you can pinpoint to men, women, depending on where they grew up. There's very specific overarching themes. Then you're kind of also going against the programming. What I also talk about is unlearning. And it's kind of just really coming back to your essence and who you truly are and living and creating from that essence. Because then things unfold much more naturally, much easier, and then you can have and hold a lot more. And it's much more aligned. So you're not actually building or living with anxiety and stress and fear all the time, but it's just more aligned with who you are. Therefore, it feels so much more peaceful and easier and fun and fulfilling and all the good things. But it takes time to realign if your whole life you've been working and going with sort of the program or the someone else's rules, then it will take time and it will take specific intention to readjust. But if you keep questioning yourself, like why am I doing this? Do I really want to do this? Do I really want this? And really be very intentional about what you're building and where you're going. Things will realign. And just surround yourself with people, or just even watch them and read about the people who've built something different that hasn't been built before. Just observe or study or research, listen to their stories, not just that everyday story, I was poor and made millions, or how I became famous, or how I became known, or how I was able to quit my corporate job and work for myself, or how I was able to work in a remote island or work on a beach. I've done so many of these things. That's not what you should be listening to, but more just someone who's done something different, or maybe similar to what you would like to do. How did they walk? What was their identity? How do they feel? How do they seem? because a lot of the times we also have to adjust our identity, who we are, how we see ourselves to be able to go where we want to go. And it all takes specific effort, specific time, specific work. In a way where I mean like specific time, it doesn't mean like it's going to take you 3 years. No. Or it's going to take you 3 months. No. It just depends exactly where you are and how quickly you are able to let go and transform. I talk about all of these things, and I will be talking about all of these things further in the videos. But what I mean is we forget that we can build life by our rules. We need to remind ourselves and to see what is in my life not the way I'd like to, and how can I shift it? How can I change to make it more mine? And even though you will shift and change things into what is more suitable or what is better for you, it doesn't mean that you will not need to change and shift it in the future. Because the way I live now, many years ago, it seemed the dream and it's something that was impossible. But what I want now, what is in alignment with me now, is completely different. Now I want very, very different things. And I'm not sure exactly of the path, but I know the long term vision. And every day I need to recheck myself. And sometimes I need to make very difficult choices and just keep walking my path, not how everyone else is doing, not how everyone else is saying that it's possible to be done, not how everyone else saying that it should be done. I always have to reattach myself, detach myself from what everyone else has said, from how they imagine the success is achieved or the results are achieved or whatever, and check in with myself, which means I have to spend a lot of time with myself, a lot of time in nature, a lot of time disconnected from electronics and the social media and the people, everyone, connected to myself and the nature, to be able to hear what do I truly want and what is truly aligned for me. I've given you a roadmap, a blueprint of how that is possible, of how you can do it. And you just have to apply it every single day. But I think the main point that we need to remember is that it's possible. We forget that it's possible. We forget every single day, we forget. And I'm just here to remind you that it is possible. And all you need to do is just believe it and choose it every day intentionally. And it will become a reality one day. And every day, more and more and more. And you will just you have to keep readjusting, 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 readjusting to make sure that you're aligned. Because what was once a dream could become hell one day. You have to keep checking in with yourself, and it just because you've achieved something one day and it's very aligned does not mean that in a month or even in a day is gonna stay the same. Just don't forget to live life on your dreams and keep following along. If you want to be inspired or see life in a different way of what is possible for you and how to build a new world with people that don't fit into these current set of rules, how to really build success in a fulfilling and joyful and peaceful way, and just to enjoy your life and have all the things that you want, have everything that you want, but not at the cost of your peace and happiness.